Thank you for joining these sections. I'll try to be brief so that we can leave more time for us to interact at the end of the sections. Just in case, can you speak Cantonese? No, of course. Okay, I'll keep on using English then. Just in case you can hear that, we could switch that to Cantonese. Social Ventures Hong Kong, we founded since 2007. We are an incubator at the same time as an investor in social enterprises in Hong Kong. So in these couple of years, we have founded almost around 10 projects, and then another 10 in the pipelines right now. We try to solve the social problem with business and investment skills. So right now, apart from our fund, we have a small fund and some staff in our nonprofit organizations, but at the same time, we are leveraging almost around 450 professional volunteers. So they are barristers, lawyers, management consultants, accountants, even McKinsey is one of our partners. So we are mobilizing these people's brain and network into helping the society in different ways. So these are some of our projects. I'm not sure whether you have seen diamond cap on the street before. Anyone of you have seen that before? Yeah, lucky you, because we just got 6 caps right now. So it's a small car fleet, but we are dedicated to solve the issue that a lot of disabled people cannot go outside very easily, point-to-point services. So this is a social business, not just a charity. I'll explain it a bit more later on. So Green Monday, we are advocating 1 day meat free. So it is our project. In case you go to some restaurants, by the way, there are more than 1,000 restaurant outlets joined us. So on Monday, they will launch many more vegetarian options. So they are our partners. And then when you're consuming vegetarian food rather than a meat meal, actually you are saving the planet. Because meat industry contributes 18% of the greenhouse gas effect. It's a big thing. And then by the way, in Hong Kong, meat consumption per capita, we are world #1. We are more serious than the United States, so it's a big thing in Hong Kong. So I'm going to explain more details on this project as well. Within 18 months, I think we have spread all around in Hong Kong. Many more people get to know that vegetarian food is good for health, good for animal rights, and then good for the environment. So right now we are keep on spreading with a lot of different approaches. So considering that, actually we are spinning off from the Dialogue in the Dark. In case you haven't heard about this, it's a dark museum. It's located in Mayfu. It's a German franchise. Actually, right now we started off around 3 to 4 years already. So imagine it's a complete darkness tour for 75 minutes. So when you go inside, complete darkness means open your eyes and shut your eyes is the same. So actually, by the way, right now on TripAdvisor Hong Kong page, it ranks #2 for Dialogue in the Dark. So Disneyland is around 10 something. So forget about Disneyland this weekend. Go Dialogue in the Dark. A lot of visitors right now go to that tour. And after that, actually you will get to know how is it like when you go blind. And then you will find out that the tour guide that takes you through that 75 minutes tour is actually visually impaired. Then you will get to know, oh, actually they are quite able person when they go to, when we all go into a complete darkness. So I think it's a good way to influence a lot more people, open-eyed people like us, to change our mindsets. So Playtime is an after-school program. A lot of poor population, the underprivileged kids right now do not have the same opportunity as the middle-class ones. So right now, actually, apart from the university degree, I think more importantly is that we are taking away the self-esteem and self-confidence from these kids. In the current system, we are building failure among these kids. So right now, we went into the schools. Actually, we right now collaborate with 7 schools, almost more than 350 kids under our program. So every day after school, we will use the idle capacity, the classrooms after school, so we don't need to pay high rent. And then we are hiring tutors going into the schools. So from Monday to Friday, year start to year end, to cover all these kids' needs. Because after school, many of the kids' parents still on job, still working, so they cannot take care of them. So we are meeting the caring gap as well as the education gap. So apart from homework, we'll take care of some of the extracurricular activities needed. And then also we will be bringing them to go out and see something out, to expose in the society. Many of the kids living in Kowloon, some Triple, we have done some program before, they have never seen the sea of Hong Kong. Because all along they just live in the neighborhood, that 2 streets. And then some kids in Dongchong have never been to the beach, although it's just behind the mountain. So I think it's Hong Kong, because these kids do not have the same opportunity for that. Lightbeat is the very first affordable housing initiative in Hong Kong. So I'm going to explain it in more details, because I think it also illustrates how business could solve the social problem. As you all know, that poverty is a big thing in Hong Kong. And then among all different problems and the poverty issue, housing is the one of the most serious one, I would say. So we are attempting with another brand new project starting off this February. Happy Granny is an elderly sponsorship program. So we have the children's sponsorship program like the one running by World Vision. So you're sponsoring your kids every month by putting a bit of money for an Indian kids or an African kids. One of the social entrepreneurs in Hong Kong think that, oh, in Hong Kong there are more than 100,000 single mothers with no support at all. So they are quite living in quite deprived situations. So right now we are saying that if all the families have already adopted 1 or 2 kids in India or Africa, why not adopt 1 granny in town? So it's a very simple concept. So apart from a bit of money supporting these elderly continuously on 1 elder every month, you have to commit to visit him or her once a month. So it's a caring network. So starting from scratch 3 years ago for 1 year, and then we have launched that for almost 2 years already. Right now we are visiting more than 150 single elders. So mobilizing several hundreds of volunteers as well as sponsors for that. So these are some of the portfolio in our social innovation. So for new visitors especially, this is Hong Kong. Behind the scene, we have the beautiful scene, but at the same time, on income disparity, rich and poor, there's a coefficient called Gini coefficients, talking about the rich and poor. Among the developed economy, we're world number 1 for many years. Last year, I heard that there's a figure, Singapore outpasses. Singapore always want to compete with us. They won this time, but we don't envy them. So this is Hong Kong for many years. In case you haven't get to know that, go to Kowloon side, Central Kowloon, or the New Territories. There are a lot of situations like this. We have the best food. Seemingly, you can eat all kind of the grade 1 food from all different countries, but at the same time, we are creating a lot of food waste. Every day is like 50 buses. The food waste could fill 50 buses. So this is Hong Kong. Right now, there are some food angel, food links collecting, but they're just collecting back maybe 1 buses of food. So 49 going to the landfill. This is Hong Kong. And we are not eating with consciousness. And by the way, as I said, we are eating a lot of meat. Meat consumption, high rate. It's not good for health. Overall, the general healthcare in Hong Kong will be affected ultimately. We have the best service for tourists, but at the same time, how we treat the underprivileged. For example, the elderly, right now when they are in need to go into the subsidized nursing home, average they need to wait for 3 years, 4 years or 5 years. 1/3 of the queue will disappear naturally. They cannot wait until they die. So this is Hong Kong. For the subsidized housing, as you heard, 3 years is just a joke. Many of the case, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, many more. With the current rate of building subsidized housing, we have no way to fulfill all the needs ultimately. So housing, cage housing, subdivided cubicles. Many families right now living in less than 7 square meter, 10 square meter. 5 people in one family living in 3 square meter. There is a lot of these cases. Because the rents keep on rising. Right now in some Sui-Po, a lot of NGOs came to us asking for whether there will be likely the affordable housing space, because a lot of families are getting rid by the landlord. Under 4,000 Hong Kong dollars per month, you cannot find a 10 square meter subdivided cubicles now. So this is Hong Kong. And then also, the latest invention is COVID housing. Have you heard about this? So when you go into the apartment, 2 stories is not enough. The landlord building the house, the bed in 4 stories. So from the floor to the ceiling, there are 4 different subdivided. It's not cage, it's a COVID, like a COVID housing. And then 4 times 5. So there are 20 flats in one apartment. Some social worker told us about that. And then for each bed that you can just crawl inside. It's not a room at all. They charge you around more than 1,000 Hong Kong per month. So this is how serious is our housing issue now. So there are many more issues. I think it's not just Hong Kong. In a lot of big cities, we have the same problem. Because right now, our population grows so rapidly in the last 50 years. Right now, we have 7 billion of people, right, in our global population. But 50 years ago, guess how many people in the world? Make a guess. Around 2 billion. So within 50 years, we climbed for more than three times of population. And then we are consuming, the way that we are consuming right now, we consume a lot of resources. Some resources of our past generations, and we're using a lot of resources of our next generations. So I think we have to change our way of living right now. I think social enterprise alone, that I'm going to talk about, cannot solve all the problem. But I think somehow, those people in the last 10 or 20 years working on social innovation are trying to demonstrate with some new form of doing business or running our society. I think that's the more important thing. So a group of pioneer social entrepreneurs is working on something very, very differently in Hong Kong. Doris, actually she was a journalist for more than 15 years. So she quit her job one day to start off this social enterprise, the Diamond Cab. It's wheelchair accessible taxi, the very first one. And then it could carry actually 2 wheelchairs coming from the back automatically. So it's a great A service for the elderly or those people on wheelchair. And then she is the only CEO that I knew that who don't know how to use Excel spreadsheet. But she can manage to get this business broken even within 2 years. So right now, after 2 years, we have served more than 445,000 wheelchair orders. At the same time, we have more than 1,000 disabled people signed up as our members, and we keep on spreading the business. We're having very good business, and right now we are mobilizing some social investors, buying the taxi license and the cab, and they rent it to us to run these operations. By the way, do you know how much is the taxi license right now in Hong Kong? 3 million is 4 years ago. Right now, almost 7 million. 7 million. So it's by the way, it's a very good investment. So right now we're mobilizing some impact investors, so they could buy the license as an asset. But we are just using the time capital of this asset to play a social value. So they are not charging us with the market rent, but they're treating us as a mortgage charity, and they rent it to us. So this is how we are promoting social investing in Hong Kong right now. The reason why Doris would do that, actually, her mother was struck a couple of years ago, and on wheelchair. So she gets to know how difficult it is when a person on wheelchair to go outside. Although 1 year ago, I think her mother already passed away. But I think through these few years, her whole family being mobilized to work on these social ventures. Right now, every time she saw this diamond cab, she said that, oh, mother is reminding me that I have to treat some other wheelchair users better way. So this is a social investing. Apart from ourselves, we have mobilized some other social investors. Like one of the largest taxi license owners in Hong Kong. They are our investors. 2 elderly home groups, big groups, they invested into Diamond Cab as well. And then we have sent in, as you remember in the first slide, that we are mobilizing a lot of professional volunteers. So this time we have get one volunteer who is actually her name is Ngai, who is the managing partner of McKinsey & Co. So he put a lot of time into this venture. So every 2 months we actually have a board meeting at McKinsey. We have the taxi people, we have the elderly home group people here. So I think we have a better chance to make this sustainable business. So apart from comparing to charity, this is not a charity. This is a social business. So right now we could get ourselves broken even. So we don't need to pump in money every year to support this venture. So they could generate income by themselves. So apart from running this, they will also run a lot of events, promote barrier-free culture. Like coming up, we will be in Stanley, we will run a diamond sedan chair competitions. So a lot of corporate will come, like getting a sedan chair and run. Of course, the wheelchair users will be on the sedan chair and running on the streets. and competitions. And then coming up, we'll be also launching Diamond Leisure. So actually it's a barrier-free tour for the disabled people. So they seldom go outside to have fun. But right now we have developed some tour package and run some routes that is easy for the wheelchair users. So it is some way that we are developing our business in different ways. So Diamond, as I said, it is also a very successful business. First year, broken even. Second year, we have some dividend sending back to the social investors. So it's a good proof in the Hong Kong community that social business or social enterprise could really work in a way that we could get ourselves sustainable, at the same time generate the social impact. So apart from the experiential exhibitions, we also have some spin-off like dinner in the dark, wine tasting in the dark, even birthday party in the dark. So of course no candles to blow, but no one knows who throws the cakes. So it's quite fun event that we organize. So every year we will also do a concert in the dark. Maybe you heard about this. We run for 4 times already. We work with the tier 1 singers. Anthony Wong, People Mountain, People See. Last year we got Joey Young, this year Li Hak, Seal All Stars, Rubber Band, and a lot more singers. So what we do is doing a concert, but in complete darkness. Imagine it's 500 people going 10% at a time with a rope go inside a dark hole. And there will be a lot of sound effect, smell effect, and storyline going through. And then every time that we run that, we will generate more than 200 media coverages. They all not just talk about how cool is the event, how fun is the event. By the way, it's making a mark in the music history. The media will also cover how difficult is the disabled people living in the city, about the discriminations. So to a bigger extent, we try to promote that in the mainstream media, to more people about the social issue. So Green Monday, as I said, right now a lot of restaurants join us, and then 17 largest caterers in Hong Kong, lunchbox provider, help us to went into 500 schools also. So we are educating kids that by eating more vegetarian food is good for the environment. But we are not saying that you need to turn into a vegan or vegetarian right from now. We're just saying that 1 day a week. Because growing cow, actually the cow will fart, of course, and then the gas actually is more toxic than the carbon dioxide, 23 more times. It's damaging, it's to create global warming more seriously. So right now we're growing a lot of cow and lamb in order to support us for the food chain, but actually they are not good to the environment. Growing 1 cow for 1 year is equal to driving for 70,000 kilometers of cars. The emission is big thing. So if all 7 million people stop eating meat for just 1 day, it's like taking away 86,000 cars off the road. So right now it is spreading. A lot more people get to know it. And then, by the way, we won a lot of award, including the marketing award. And then these restaurants join us. Even some of the restaurants are selling beef. Momo Club, something like this. Right now, after they launched vegetarian food, they have a vegetarian hot pot. It's quite delicious, by the way. The owner told us that it's amazing. We saw 60 monks eating in my restaurant, which is selling beef. So right now, these restaurants join us. They're not selling less meals. They sell more meals. Because a lot of vegetarians now rushing into the mainstream restaurants. So they have many more media coverage. They have many more businesses. So it's a good way for us to collaborate with the business corporations again. And then, I had to say something as well. 3 weeks ago, Hong Kong Airport, Go Green Monday. If you go to the airport now, you will see some poster with Wu Guigi, some of the pop star, and then Zhao Weiman. They are promoting Green Monday. So right now, in the whole airport, more than 70% of the restaurants already joined Green Monday. I launched many more vegetarian options. And then also it's a good window to telling the tourists about this message and telling them that Hong Kong is want to go Green Monday, and want to go green more. And then Hong Kong Airport right now claiming to be the very first airport to go green among all the other airports around the world. So Lightbee actually is affordable housing initiative, as I said. So right now, a lot of property owners flat owner, they're renting the apartment to us without charging the market rent. And then we will be re-renting that to some single parent family. We don't do the subdivided cubicles, illegal things. For example, one apartment, there exists 2 to 3 sleeping rooms. We'll move in 2 to 3 single parent families with young kids together. And they will live together, build a neighborhood again. They will be sharing the living room, sharing the kitchen together. So this is how we work. And then they will pay at their affordability. So we will plan for the rent so that we will not overstretch them. And then within the few years that they're living in here, they will have a stable rent only. We will not keep on raising the rent because the owner is not charging market rent. So the reason why the apartment owner will rent it to us, by the way, we grow from one apartment at the beginning of the year to right now we have already closed the 8 and the 9 apartments already. So more than 30 people moving in, more than 15 families already in these apartments. So they are having a new life inside. After a couple of months, these families will start doing, finding a better job, getting their kids into a better schools, and then we'll have some angel families supporting them as well. So it's turning their life around just within a couple of months. The reason why the apartment owner will be supporting us is that actually a lot of empty houses is in Hong Kong. A lot of Hong Kong people will buy apartments. In the figures, more than 300,000 people have more than one apartment on record, maybe more than that, because some of them using companies to buy apartment. But many of them are actually just put empty. The latest one signing contract with that is actually immigrant already to, not immigrant, someone moving to Canada already. They see the Ming Pao Canada edition and then say, oh, it's a good idea. And then the other week, they came back to Hong Kong and then signed a contract to us because they said, we got an empty house in Hong Kong. We just put it as an exit. It's an exit gain every year, but we don't want the trouble renting out to people. So right now, they're giving it to us, renting to us. So versus nothing, getting nothing, we are still paying rent, but a little bit less. But we were taking care of everything. We'll sign a contract with the families. In case those families shouldn't pay, we will underwrite the agreed rent that we have committed. So even on the small maintenance things, we were all taking care of all these things. So like B to be a middleman. So apart from the affordable rent, we will be also charging commissions for every flat that we gain. So the name Light B, by the way, the product name is called Light Home. It's called Guang Fong in Cantonese. Light meaning photosynthesis. So after putting these people into a different environment, they start releasing oxygen. And then all the other poverty alleviation elements become useful now. And then they start smiling, that's the oxygen. They start gaining weight, that's the oxygen. They start gaining momentum, getting out of the poverty cycle. So I think these cases actually arouse a lot of public interests. We are just mobilizing the private resources. Without, up till now, we haven't get any single penny from the government funding. We all raised the private funding from family foundations, individual philanthropists. We're using our own way, some business ways to solve the problem. So I would say these are some of the slides that we talked about ecosystem, by the way. I'll go very quickly. We see a great momentum in social entrepreneurship in Asia, especially some early adopters like Tape 2 in Japan, Dialogue Without in Hong Kong. Some of the government actually putting a lot of efforts. You might heard about the 500 million Hong Kong dollar of the government fund on social innovation. Have you heard about this? So it's under the Commission on Poverty. It will be coming out very soon. So it's aimed to promote more on the social innovation, support the social innovation initiative. So some government like Korea, Singapore, Thailand putting a lot of efforts in promoting these topics. And then the key milestones of development of social entrepreneurship. Actually, right now, official figures on social enterprises is around 400 something. But I would say more of them should be called a welfare enterprise, like those shelter workshops they're counted inside. So a lot of them still under managed by NGOs, but there is a small portions like the projects that we have introduced is some brand new social enterprise that we are doing from the civic sector. And right now, I think in the last year, we're gaining many more traction from the corporate sector, business sector, as well as the mainstream media. So I think right now it's about time to making a bigger booming sections for booming stage for the development. So I'm going to skip this part. I think the government is trying to do a lot of different roles in that. And then some new observations is that some good successful case actually making this trend booming a lot more. And then we see some early adopters, even from the donor investors. Actually, right now, a lot of family foundations or family offices, apart from doing the traditional investments, they're considering some impact investments. Because in the past, especially the second or third generations, they want to do charity more differently than the older generations. They don't want to sing in a TVB and then raising the fund. Right now, they want to do something more meaningful. They want to get engaged with the charity that they supported. They want to see the efficiency and effectiveness of how the NGOs run. So right now, a lot of ways called engaged giving or impact investing or social investing, a lot more names that you will see. But this is a growing trend that a lot more capital owners, by the way, they would like to do things more differently with the traditional philanthropy as well as the traditional investments. So it's a combined things together now. So in Hong Kong, more civic sectors, more civic collaborations happening. I would say it's better than some other parts in Asia as well. These are some of the mapping. We see the landscape in a way that from the left to the right is inspire, innovate, incubate, and invest. A lot of people, no matter entrepreneur or social entrepreneur, they will see that, oh, I have to see $3 million putting on the table and I will start doing things. But I would say in many more of these incubation process that we observed right from start, we have to get engaged with the people. The social entrepreneur or the entrepreneur have a big passion in the things that he or she is working on. And then they will dig into the root cause of the problem, and they will then brainstorm and innovate and invent with a good idea. And after that, there's a long process of incubating. For example, starting off with some prototype or pilot cases. And then I would say the investment will play right by that time, not right from the start. So this is the process that we see. So right now in Hong Kong, a lot of different organizations is working on different things. Some of them more on the promoting side, some of them working on the universities, some of them on the civic sectors. So I think right now many more organizations will be in the market soon. So in our wish list, I think we want social enterprise to be built to be a robust industry, but we want a wider spectrum. We don't want social enterprise is just championed by a small group of people. A few of them are heroes. Oh, we need heroes. Heroes solve all our problems. We rely on Superman. I would say right now we have passed the age of heroes already. We want more half heroes. Someone don't need to quit their job. They could stay in their job, but they could mobilize some of the business resources to help the social entrepreneur. That could be one way. So in the spectrum, I would say from the shelter workshops, those welfare enterprise, to some small startup social enterprises, to even the newer trend is actually the social business. Some of the corporations starting off with the core business to play a social value. So if we could build a wide spectrum, that could be more relevant to many more people. That's how we see it. And then overall, we think that if social innovation could be built up to be a culture, many more people will stop just complaining. When they see the news, they will scold at the government. Where is the social worker? Asking all these kind of questions. But I think if we could get more people stop asking, but action, go outside and see how you can change the world with your own capacity. That's a good culture. Actually, social innovation is spreading all around the world. I think we're getting a lot more people off the road from Occupy Wall Street coming back to social innovation. We need someone to break, it's important, but at the same time we need someone to build. It's a more balanced way to build a society. And then also we see the advantage of doing social innovation is the cross-sector collaborations. Right now, as you can observe, like Green Monday, like Light B, affordable housing, we're mobilizing resources from all different sectors. Some people with apartment they want to do good thing. They don't mind charging less before, but they have no way to do it. How do they do it? They put up a net and say, oh, we're charging less, come on. So 1,000 people could come, and then how to screen it off. So right now we need to build up social enterprises like new mechanisms to reshuffle the resources in the community. Already some good minds could come together again. And then on social investing, we want to grow by phase, because right now we see a bit on maybe hype or some bubbles is going on. A lot more people thinking that doing social investing is a trendy thing. So they are rushing into the space, putting in a lot of money, and a lot of money ready to be going to the market. But I would say some of these investors are not putting enough time to work with this social entrepreneur. At the end of the day, I think it is people. We cannot forget about these things. So this is the end slide. I would say I would put the emphasis is the new currency in social investing is the passion of people. So when we are scaling with some solutions, we cannot forget about this as well. So, but I would say many investors right now always think about the figures, think about the measurements and things. But I think more and more we have to go to work with the social entrepreneur, to go to see the problem before we are making any decisions and work on that. So I think it's an open up of my sections. We welcome many more questions from the floor, and we could have more interactive sections. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for analyzing the social enterprise situation in Hong Kong, and you also introduced to us some of the flagship project of social ventures. HK is very inspiring. The Lightspeed project, Economy project, etc. And we have some time for questions, but not much. So please.
Two questions. One a very practical one. What happened if the enterprise turned into a business, so they can already break even and then no longer have to depend on the funding? So will they go independent, totally disengaged from the project, or that's one my question. And the other one is the income disparity and poverty. And I'm thinking about how we define poverty. In Hong Kong, there are a lot of rich people and there are a lot of middle class people, and then there are poor people. But I think the other deprivation is the lack of compassion. Not just passion, it's compassion. So, because usually the people on the privileged part side tend to, I mean, a part of them, not all, right? I don't want to stigmatize, tend to see the poor people as lazy. It's their problem. So I think this is a major part of deprivation. I mean, the lack of sensitivity of the needs of people, and that the lack of opportunity. So that, and we need to educate and influence. And I really appreciate the TV program, the RTHK TV program, 2 or 3 series, and kind of really allow people to really experience poverty. And from the experience, they kind of convert, at least for some of them. Right? So I wonder whether in your projects you also aim at this as, instead of giving birth to different projects, I think we have to address the root cause of poverty and not just care for poor people.
Yeah, a very good question. Thank you so very much. And then first, I think very simple. Answer to your first question first is as SHK, we treat ourselves to be a social private equity. So we hope that all the projects could get independent. So at the end of the day, we could maybe exit our support, the resources or the manpower, and then we will be incubating some new projects. That's our aim. But of course, private equity took time. So we just found it for around 6 years. So I think we need some more time before we have some project exit our incubation. And then secondly, I would say poverty. How do we define poverty? It's a big question. But I would say right now even the government have launched the poverty line. So that's something that we cannot deny. Some figures already there. If you don't believe figures, I think it's a very good way. You have to experience it. Go visit some subdivided community. You will find it more vividly. And then, but I would say poverty is more than figures. poverty is not just something on the report that we see. I think poverty is something that you have to think in that way. So I think the program that you talked about, the HK program, 窮富翁大作戰 rich pay poor may, we put some rich people into the poor situations and they experience it. Some of them are my friends. So I can tell you, many of them, after experience it, they think very differently. And more importantly, in the third episode, it's related to social innovation. Apart from experience it, they got inspired. It's not, they won't stop with the tears. They need to do some actions. They try to think about a way how to solve the poverty issues. I think it's about action now. We cannot just thinking that, oh, it's very pretty, or it's something that, well, we can realize that poverty always appeared. Poor is not, is in the history, poor is not a new thing. But I would say right now, the way that we run our current capitalism, we are creating many more poor people, many more people lagging behind. Rich and poor is not the problem of the rich, of course, but I think the discrepancy creates a lot more problem. Like, for example, very obvious is the rent. Right now, the rent is raising too high that no more small business could survive. We don't have hawkers anymore. So right now, we're taking away the social ladders. So that we have to realize. So I would say right now, it's no way to just complain, and then even you occupy central, you cannot solve the problem. I would say we have to build up some new ladders, some new platform, like all these things that we do, but I would say there are many more things. We need to build up some ladder for the poor people to climb up again. If you provide them with opportunity, from our experience, you'll be surprised. They actually don't want to beg for money. They want to get, they don't just want to rely on social securities. They want to get their own living. Those perceptions, those wrong stereotyping of these poor people is absolutely a damaging thing in the society. But I would say these 1 or 2 years is changing a lot. So a lot more people are aware of that. It is a problem. It is not something that is just people lazy. People from the mainland is some kind of insect invading us. I think it's not that simple. By the way, we are all immigrants. Most of us, I would say. Sorry, longer answer for your questions.
It's very nice. The key word is not just to action, but to empower those poor people so that they can make their own living.
That's the ultimate solutions. We cannot just sending out $6,000 and solve their problems. It's a joke.
That. So,
yeah.
Any more questions?
You mentioned some ventures that a lot of them seems to have a very good business case, but some of them, for example, the PlayTown, I'm not sure there is a business case there. So how do you, as a social venture, support these kind of initiatives?
Very good, very wise man, and then you can good observation. Right now, we are more focusing on the social innovation. In our portfolio, some of them are non-profit, some of them are for-profit. For us, I think it's very simple for why we decided to support some of the initiative. We want to have more new platforms to change the society. So as long as our only parameters is that we ask ourselves, after a couple of years, with this social innovation, or without this, and without this social innovation, what is different to the society? So for PlayTown, actually, we are reinventing a new way of doing the after-school program, actually. Right now, we are using kind of a business model. In the past, some of the organizations might be using volunteer to support it, but right now, no. We are employing some tutors. We have business organizations to manage all these things. We are going into the schools. Many of the NGOs are doing in their center, but it's quite difficult to manage. One class of 10 students coming from 8 schools, from different grades. It's impossible for you to manage them. So right now we go into the schools, tailor-make the program together with the school for them. And then for those parents who could afford several tens of dollars every day, they're still paying that. We will then leave the space for some more slots for the underprivileged who cannot pay. Some of them pay half, some of them pay free. But at the end of the day, all the program will be underwritten by some corporate. So right now, Standard Charter, Philip Morris, CVC, one of the private equity, together with Hong Kong Broadband, duty-free shops. Our dream is that if all the corporate, they need to do CSR anyways. they're spending money to some other places. So we are tapping with that market. So our dream is every corporate adopt a poor school in Hong Kong. Some of our problem could be solved. And then with that platform to the schools, the importance is we are mobilizing a lot more resources from the society into the school. In the past, the teachers and principals are too busy. There's no way for them to tap with the resources. So right now, with that organizations being there, played out there, we are mobilizing a lot more resources from the corporate going to the schools. So if every corporate adopt a school, they will be taking care of that school as well. In case they have some other need, they want to find some gas, find some place to visit, find some training slot, there will be some provided by a corporate as well.
What sort of figure are we talking about? Is
CSR.
Yeah, CSR.
I don't have a figure, but I just say that in at least in the Western world, many more corporate are putting a lot more emphasis in CSR. It's not just the window dressing. Actually, a lot of the big corporate talk to us that they don't want to talk about CSR now because a lot of people thinking that CSR is some window dressing thing, giving out a bit of money, doing volunteer work. But right now, I think the trend, as one of the very famous Harvard professor Michael Porter said, we should talk about CSV, creating shared value. Meaning is using their core business to play a value to the society. It's not just using some exceed profit to donate back. There are so many successful cases like social business, like for example Danone. They work with Grameen Bank. Grameen Danone. Danone is the food, French food manufacturer. So they putting a brand new yogurt factory operations back to Bangladesh. And then because in Bangladesh, a lot of children, around 50% of them under a certain age, they are having malnutrition problem. So with that operation, on one hand, they launch a new brand, which is selling very cheaply, so that they could support some of the kids for better nutrition. At the same time, that factory could provide many jobs, many more jobs for the community as well. So it's a very one of the examples of social business.
So can I therefore understand your target would be not individuals like us who are interested in, say, participating in your venture. Your target would be investors, basically, who will adopt or adopters.
I think we seldom target to some group and actually do the marketing, but I think right now many more people with interests came to us. But that would range from a lot of different persons. Individuals came to us and say that, well, I want to do some professional volunteer. I want to volunteer my time. So our figures from 450 will keep on rising, having many more individuals coming here. There exists some individual philanthropies. They are looking for some new ways of giving. They came to us. There exists a lot of corporates looking for some new marketing solutions, or CSR solutions, or team building solutions. They might came to us for some new market. So I think right now we are trying to do a lot of different new initiatives, new ways to attract many more resources to the community. We shuffle them and then channel them to the social problem. That's how we work.
Any more? Okay.
So all of your investment funding comes from the private sector and zero dollar from the government.
Yes, right now. Till now, yes. Some family foundations, individual families. We get some private equity investment for us as well.
Any more questions? Feel free to ask.
Okay, in that way, thank you for your time. Thank you very much.
Thank